Imagine leaving everything you've ever known behind. Your home, your family, your country. You sail across an unforgiving ocean toward a land few Europeans have ever seen. The journey is dangerous, but the promise is irresistible. A chance to build a new life in a new world. Now imagine that just 3 years later, every single person in your settlement disappears without a trace. No bodies, no signs of battle, no desperate messages. Just one mysterious word carved into a wooden post. This is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke, one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in history. And more than 4 centuries later, nobody knows exactly what happened. Our story begins in the summer of 1587. A small group of 115 English settlers arrived on a remote island off the coast of what is now North Carolina. They had crossed a dangerous ocean with dreams of building a permanent colony in the New World. Leading them was a respected artist and governor named John White. The colonists arrived with hope in their hearts. They dreamed of building homes, planting crops, and creating a thriving English settlement thousands of miles from their homeland. Among the settlers were women and children, including White's own daughter, Eleanor Dare. Shortly after arriving, Eleanor gave birth to a baby girl. Her name was Virginia Dare. She became the first English child born in the Americas. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the colony's future was bright, but beneath the surface, trouble was already brewing. The settlers quickly discovered that life in the New World was far more difficult than they had imagined. Food supplies were limited, the land was unfamiliar, relations with some nearby Native American tribes were tense due to previous conflicts involving earlier English expeditions. As weeks passed, the colonists grew increasingly worried. They needed more supplies if they were going to survive, so the settlers turned to their governor. John White reluctantly agreed to return to England and gather food, tools, and reinforcements. It was supposed to be a short trip, a few months at most. Before he departed, White promised his family and fellow settlers that he would come back as quickly as possible. No one knew that this goodbye would become one of the most haunting farewells in history. As White's ship disappeared beyond the horizon, the colony watched their leaders sail away. They expected to see him again soon, but fate had other plans. War between England and Spain erupted, and every available ship was needed for England's defense. White's return was delayed. Months turned into years. For 3 long years, John White waited, yet White never forgot. His daughter was there, his granddaughter was there, his friends and fellow settlers were there, and somewhere across the Atlantic Ocean they were waiting for him, or so he believed. Finally, in August of 1590, White secured passage back to Roanoke Island. As the ship approached the familiar coastline, he felt a mixture of relief and excitement. Soon he would see his family again. Soon he would finally know that the colony had survived. But the moment he stepped ashore, something felt wrong. The settlement was silent. No voices, no children playing, no smoke rising from cooking fires, no signs of life. White and his men cautiously made their way toward the colony. The houses were gone, not burned, not destroyed, simply dismantled. Wooden structures had been carefully taken apart, as though the settlers had packed up and moved somewhere else. There were no signs of a battle, no weapons scattered across the ground, no graves, no bodies, nothing. It was as if the entire colony had been erased. Then White noticed something strange. Carved into a wooden fence post was a single word, CROATOAN. White immediately remembered an agreement he had made with the settlers before leaving. If they ever decided to relocate, they were supposed to leave a message indicating where they had gone, and if they were in danger, they were instructed to carve a Maltese cross alongside the message. But there was no cross, only the word, CROATOAN. The name referred to a nearby island and the Native American people who lived there. For a brief moment, White felt hope. Perhaps the settlers hadn't vanished after all. Perhaps they had simply moved. Maybe they were alive and waiting on CROATOAN Island. The mystery could finally be solved. White urged his crew to prepare for the journey, but nature had other plans. A violent storm began to gather over the coast. Powerful winds battered the ships. Massive waves crashed against the hulls. The captains refused to risk their vessels. Despite White's desperate pleas, they would not sail to CROATOAN. The weather made the journey impossible. Heartbroken, White was forced to leave. As Roanoke disappeared into the distance, he looked back one final time. He never returned, and he never saw his daughter or granddaughter again. More than 400 years have passed since the settlers of Roanoke vanished, and yet the mystery remains unsolved. No official record ever revealed what became of the 115 men, women, and children who disappeared from the colony. The first and perhaps most convincing theory is surprisingly simple. The settlers may have joined the CROATOAN people. John White himself believed this was the most likely explanation. In fact, years later, explorers reported meeting Native Americans who claimed their ancestors had once lived alongside white settlers. Some even described people with European features, including lighter eyes and different facial characteristics. Were these the descendants of Roanoke? No one can say for certain, but the possibility remains. Another theory paints a much darker picture. Some historians believe the settlers never reached safety. Perhaps the colony was attacked. Perhaps disease swept through the settlement. Or perhaps hunger forced the colonists to scatter into the wilderness where they slowly perished. The problem is that none of these theories fully explain the evidence. There were no signs of violence, no mass graves, no desperate messages, only a carefully carved word left behind as if someone wanted it to be found. And that single clue continues to haunt historians to this day. Until the truth is found, the lost colony of Roanoke will remain one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries.